Paula, we're live. Good to meet
Okay.
you. I can't wait to hear what you're talking about, and I have got my tissues ready.
Oh, bless.
So, my name's Audrey Patterson, and this is Paula Roscoe and Grief Guru. So, I can't wait to tell me all about you, Paula, and tell me what took you down this path, because it's something that has hit, I think, everybody. And if it hasn't, it will. And it's how you deal with it. And we had a conversation in the background about it, and I had said to you about my mum, and I said everything changes. Somebody explained it to me when I lost my mum. It was like having a hole in your heart where the wind blows through and you'll never get used to the sound. And for me, that is exactly it. Everything's in a different way. Things like my son going to school, having a parents' night, that would take me right back. All of these things. So I can't wait to hear from you. So I'm going to shush and I'm going to listen to you, Paula.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Thank you very much, Audrey. Right. So I am, as they say, a grief guru, and I have been dealing with grief for a very, very long time. So a very quick history of me. I am a survivor of abuse from a very early age. I am also a survivor of several suicide attempts. But the one that really hit me and put me on this path particularly is the death of my son. And I was offered nothing. I was basically told, you're a young girl, you'll have another one. And that was it. And I was like, wow, okay. I have to somehow try and deal with this horror of it. And I had no idea. I'd had deaths of grandparents and deaths of pets and things, but I'd never really dealt with this specific horror of dealing with. I had a child and now he's gone. And I realized that I came to a conclusion over the years that writing was my savior. And it did actually save me. So 2 weeks after Jack died, my husband had to go back to work. And I sat there doodling, and I actually started writing my first novel. And 7 months later, my first novel was born, Echoes. And it was that kept me going. So I started to think how else I could start looking after myself. And I started looking into various therapies, and I started looking into various different healings, holistic ways of looking at it. And I'm a very spiritual person anyway. So over the years, I started to train as a therapist. And then I trained qualified as a teacher. And I trained people to become grief therapists for 6 years. And I became, I suppose, a grief expert, if you like, because I worked with grief and death for such a long time. And what I started to incorporate into that was because while I was working with clients, I found that they were hitting a brick wall all the time. They were coming across things that I started to feel within counseling, was that they were feeling constricted. Like they wanted to say more, they wanted to feel more, they wanted to expand that and explore more, but they couldn't with just talking. So I started to incorporate little writing exercises into our therapy sessions, lots of holistic kind of things into it. I work with angels. I'm also a spiritual medium. I work with spirit guides and all kinds of stuff, and I offer lots of healing. So I started doing that with them, and we started to see miraculous results. Because instead of just talking about it, they were able to embrace everything. They were able to embrace their mind, body, and spirit. Because what I realized very early on was that grief affects all three. Yeah. It affects your mind, your body, your spirit. And so trying to just heal one, it wasn't enough. It was like sticking a plaster on an open wound and hoping for the best, keeping your fingers crossed. And I was starting to see the clients coming back because I knew that there was more to their story, but they didn't have a way of getting to it. But when I started to introduce all the different therapies, when I started to introduce writing, music, photo, all this kind of stuff, and started to intuitively offer healing sessions with them, they were able to go all the way back to their childhood traumas, to their beliefs, old beliefs, things that they hadn't even dealt with back then that were now dictating how they behaved now and how they dealt with their grief now. So we were talking just before we started about what is normal. Well, there's no such thing as normal, especially within grief. Everyone has to go through their own journey. But one way that is true with all of it, however way you go through it, you have to heal from before the grief to be able to heal the grief. Because what happened in the past is dictating how you perceive grief, how you deal with it, how you heal from it, how you think about it, how you behave with it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So all of that has to be healed first, and then we come back to the grief. So the clients that I'm working with at the moment, we've gone all the way back. We're healing all that trauma, and then we're doing shifts, and they're seeing huge shifts. And this isn't about you can't take away the grief. You can't just. I haven't got a magic wand. You know, unfortunately, a lot of my clients, they wish I had. I don't. You do have to work through it. But like any wound, grief can be healed. It's just how you do it and how you perceive it, how you think about it, how you feel about it, how you behave with it. And so all of that has to be healed as one. And
so that I actually explain that when someone will say to me, you know, how are you? And I'll say, it's like having a hot poker, how I feel about grief. And this actually really kind of makes me understand what you're saying. It's like having a burning hot poker that just becomes less burning until you can actually deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's I've heard probably every analogy you can imagine about how grief feels. I've been doing this for 20 years, and it's like but they all come down to the same thing. It's how you think, it's how you feel, and it's how you behave from it. So when you start sort of gently challenging old beliefs, old thoughts patterns, old behaviors, old traumas that you haven't dealt with, then you can heal your grief. And it's never about forgetting the person. That's impossible. Of course you can't. But you can start to look at their death in a just slightly different way. So people say to me, well, do you still grieve your son? No, I don't. I haven't grieved my son for probably about 10, 15 years because I did all of this work. I miss my son. I love my son beyond measure, but I'm able to talk about Jack. I'm able to think about him, love him with purity, without the pain, without the sorrow, without the exhaustion, without the brain fog, without the, as you say, that hole in the heart, that hot poker. You know, I mean, I loved what you said before about your mum, about that hole in the heart and with the wind that I get it. I do. I remember feeling that, but I was able to heal that. And it's a beautiful, loving place to be, because I can, as I said, I can think about my son and all the things that happened and all the other people that I've you know, who have died since. I've done the work. I love them, I miss them, but I don't hurt. And that's the difference. I'm able to live my life, because what I try and teach women is that you are just as important as the person who died.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sadly, a lot of people put so much emphasis on, and they wallow in the person who died. They forget themselves. And I ask them a very honest and challenging question. If you are not as important as the person who died, are you going to remain in this dark pit? I used to call it the dark pit of shit, because that's what it is. Are you going to stay in that dark pit for the rest of your life, however that looks? Is that 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever many years, and dwelling in that sorrow? Is that what you want for your life? It's a yes or no answer.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing that probably kind of pushes me is, would they want us to be like that? And I know the answer's no, but then I
Yeah.
go, you kind of revert back and you think, right, okay, so I know I need to do work, Paula. I've lost so many friends. I've lost 6 friends. We're all under 60. And I've lost another 3 in the last 2 years. I lost 6 family during COVID. And most of my clients are retired clients now. So every other month I'm losing a client just now. And it just becomes part of, I've lost another client. And sometimes I think you just don't deal with it. You just think, I just carry on, keep going. But there's a part that you're just not dealing with, because yesterday I got bad news about a friend and her sister within 6 weeks has now been put into palliative care. And I just went right down the path again and thought, this is just, see this cancer, it's 1 and 2 to do and go back. My husband's like, you can't take everybody's problems. You really need to concentrate on you. And that's why the group is called It's All About You, Paula.
Brilliant. I think what I'm hearing you say, that it's almost, you're going into survival mode. You're going into self-preservation. So sometimes the thought of actually sitting and dealing with the pain of it, sitting with the horror of it and facing it can be too much, especially if it's one after the other, one after the other. And yes, I'm working with clients at the moment who have had that one after the other, and they're still dealing from the blow of the one that happened before, at the very beginning. But it's very, very important to make that time to stop and remind yourself that you are just as important, and your life and your future is just as important as their death was.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell this story, and it's to try and put it into perspective. When not long after I first qualified, one of my first clients I had was a gentleman in his 60s. And he came in and he was all, I said, okay, you don't want to be here. Fine. Your family have sent you here. I get it. What do you want to do? Oh, I just want to sit here. Fine. Okay. I'll do some work then.
Even I went for my first session.
I said, okay.
I just said, tell me about you. And she says, well, it wouldn't help you. I says, yeah, but it will help me.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I deal with things.
So this guy, he's sitting there. So I start doing some work, and eventually he says, well, I'm here to talk about my grief. And I said, okay, fine. Talk to me about it. And eventually it came out that he had been holding on to his grief for 52 years. 52 years. He was 9 years old when his mother died. And he had never cried. Well, no, he started to cry, and his father said, stop crying, boys don't cry. And he stopped crying. He never cried again. And he never dealt with it. He held on to it. So he never had a family. He never had a wife. He never had children. He never did anything he wanted. He just got up, went to work, came home alone. And that was his life. He came to me, or he was sent to me, because his father had died 4 weeks before. And it was like that. I can finally.
It'll be me.
I can finally grieve. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect to see him again, but he came back the week after, and he just sat there and cried. More or less the whole hour. And I never saw him again. He walked to the door and he turned to me and he said, thank you. I needed that. And I never saw him again. But the fact that he had held on to it for 52 years, I don't want that for anybody else. No one else needs to do that.
And if you look at the side of that, Paula, actually holding that, how that impacts all your body, because I'm doing loads of stuff like internal work and, working with Zoe programming, just lots of learning on health and how that destroys your health.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to go into everything that he told me about, obviously, but he did have a lot of health problems. And I'm just starting to learn about new German medicine. I don't know if you've heard of that, about how your body goes into trauma. And so you need to talk about it, release it in your body. So your body reacts. There's certain parts of your body that react to whatever's going on in your life, which is
absolutely
very interesting.
So there's quite a few people in this group. We follow Dr. Barbara O'Neill, and I'm going to see her in Crieff. And if you listen to, she's Australian, if you listen to some of the stuff, so many things, our health issues are caused by stress, grief, cortisol levels rising, so many parts of it, which is why my whole thing is health is your wealth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, as I say, I work with clients and they have a variety of health issues, but there's always 2 or 3 that I see time and time again. And it's always centered around the chest, around the heart space. You know, I'm always having colds and flu. I'm always having chest infections. I'm always having problems with, my nose and throat, because they're not speaking their truth.
Yeah.
They're not healing their heart.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see that all the time. Or I see lots of shoulders, neck and shoulder problems, because they're holding on to that. The stress.
Yeah. Here's an example. When I actually started, so I do Forever Living, right? When I started drinking it, so I had 3 businesses when I started, and I walked about like that, and my ears were attached to my shoulders. And I remember one of the girls, after probably 2 months, saying to me, "You had Botox?" And I looked at it and I said, "Sorry," because I had actually calmed down a bit. And because I'd calmed, my face looked less lined, my eyebrows were raised a bit, and she thought I had Botox. And it was just the coping. It was basically, I'm feeding my body, I'm looking after my body better, I'm taking time for me, and I'm putting a bit of healing in.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's interesting what you're saying. I mean, because I really, really do. I've never come across anybody that I could actually work with, because I found a girl after my mum died. Well, no, not after my mum died. After probably the 6 died during COVID, and that was horrific. I remember getting referred to a lady who did talking therapy. And as she came on, she said, "Oh my," she said, "I have never worked with anybody that's lost so many people." And she probably did 4 counselling sessions with me, Paula. I'm not sure I was getting in and out of it. And then she stopped taking my call.
Right. Yeah. So but that's about her, not you. But sadly, it obviously has an effect on you. And again, I hear this so often. I have people who say to me, "Oh, counselling doesn't work." Well, no, it's not going to work if, one, you can't connect with your therapist.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be sharing really intimate things with this person. If you cannot connect with that person 100%, it's not going to work. If that person is not experienced enough in whatever it is that you are coming to that person with, they're doing a lot of guesswork, or they're doing a lot of basic counseling and hoping for the best. And I really don't want to come across as though I hate counseling. I did counseling for many years, and I saw a lot of brilliant, wonderful things happening. But I know that there is more.
Yeah,
I can offer my clients.
I mean, like I said, if I had stopped taking her call, I could see it didn't work, but that was my fault. But she stopped taking my call. And I thought, there's a reason. And I think she just didn't know where to go with me. And at the time, I was really, really struggling, you can imagine. And I had gone to group sessions. Group sessions didn't work for me. I tried when my mum died. I'd gone to, cruise. And I sat 1-to-1, and the girl said, "So tell me about you." And I says, "Oh, I'm fine. How are you? Tell me about you." And she says, "Well, that's not going to help you." And I says, "But honestly, it really will help me, because that's how I deal with things. Helping you. Just let me solve your problem."
Yeah.
But this girl, she was recommended to me, and I just thought, wow. And then somebody actually recently, because I think on the face, it's funny, isn't it? Because we can all put a face on. And I think lots of people will look at me and say, "Oh, you don't need," but really, nobody knows what goes on in somebody's background, head, mind. Your close friends see it. Your family obviously see it. And I think this is where it is so important to find out it's all about you. And if you take time for you and you go and have grief counselling for an hour, that is your hour, you need it. Rather than the guilt part of, "Well, I'm taking time out from my child's," you know what I'm saying? Basically, it is you. You need to put you first, or we're going to get to the burnout. We're going to get to what we've just talked about, why I'm so passionate about all these things. I've got another retreat in November. Why I'm passionate about those, but we need to take the time and actually do the work.
Absolutely, definitely. And people, sadly, they don't invest in themselves. They don't see themselves as important enough. So I hear people talking about, I was listening to a conversation actually when I was in Scotland. there was a couple sitting next to us in a bar, and she was talking about some of the trauma that she'd gone through recently, and how she was looking forward to this holiday that she'd saved up to go to. And I couldn't help sitting there thinking, but you're going on a holiday that is probably going to help you for the week or so that you're there, but you've still got to come home to you.
Yeah.
And you're not prepared to heal you first. You're hoping it's going to do the other way around. Or people who go out and buy themselves, I don't know, new cars and settees and bits and pieces, hoping that it's going to make them feel better. But actually, it's still you that has to sit on the couch, you that still has to sit in the car. It's you that's going on the holiday. If you are not 101%, then it doesn't matter what you buy. It's just shit in the end of it.
Yeah.
You have to get to that point. So it's like people say to me, well, I'm fine. Oh, I hate the word fine. I'm fine. And I say, well, fuck fine. I take you above fine.
Yeah.
I take you way above fine. I just did a podcast a few weeks ago with the woman who wrote fine as a 4-letter word. We had a right laugh about that because when I was training to be a therapist, people would say things like, oh, yeah, I'm fine, or yeah, I'm okay. And that's just a throwaway word.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we became therapists, the lecturer said to us, right, over the next 4 years, you are not allowed to say the words fine or okay. Come up with something else. Make that conversation deeper. And it's so true.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I found that after my mum died, somebody said to me, on a Sunday, that was my worst day. And my friends would phone and say, how are you? And I go, fine. And the real ones would say, how are you really?
Yeah.
I'm not fine. It was like, but sometimes you just need that deeper delve. But it's funny when you're talking about people investing in themselves, and I totally get that. And I spend a lot of money investing in me because I know what's important, but I spent it the wrong way. As soon as my mum died, it was my 40th. My mum was buried the day before my 40th. And I was lost, Paula. And I bought a Rolex for my 40th, 50th and 60th. Every single time I looked at it, I thought, I want my mum.
Yeah.
And I just said to my husband, I don't want this watch. I don't want it. It does not connect with me in any shape or form. And I sold the watch and I bought a Fossil watch. When we went to the first trip with Forever, because it meant so much to me, just all the things I'd come through, and I bought this watch. It was like, I don't know, 10% of the price of it. I was just lost and thinking this thing was going to make me happy, and it just made me so sad. Going to look at it and going, I'm lost.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do. I hear this all the time. And I get people saying, oh, well, I do treat myself and I make myself feel better by buying coffee and I'm buying this and I'm buying that. I said, okay, but when are you going to buy you? Or aren't you worth it? Aren't you worth the same amount of money? So people will go out and spend all this money on stuff, but they're forgetting that they're still having to come back to themselves. Yeah. And you can hide and hide and hide. But like this guy, after 52 years, it catches up with you in the end. It's going to.
Yeah. And I think that's, again, I mean, this group was actually more about Forever for a while because it was a weight group. But I was sitting, the company changed the name to What Matters Most, which really resonates with me. And I thought, the whole thing here is it's all about you. Because if you don't put your own oxygen mask on, you can't help other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the same thing, we've got the guilt, and this is from a financial services point of view, we've got the guilt. So when I look at somebody's budget, they will say, well, that's what's left. But they'll think nothing of going spending £30, £40 takeaways over the weekend. And that'll be in the budget. But if I said to them, well, actually, you need a counselling session, not a counselling session, you just need to actually work on you, spend some time on that, and that'll be that £30 or £40. Oh, no, we like our takeaway. You can relate all of that to people until it becomes so important that they think, I need to do that. Or someone else says, Paula, you need to do that. And then it's like the guilt is taken away from them spending the money. It's the spending habits that's the issue. When they take that away and say, you need to do that. That is the most important thing that you put in your budget. It's the same when I do my calendar on a weekly basis. It's my Zumba classes, my walking, my exercise, my meditation. Okay, let's fit the rest in. Yeah. Because I know for me to function in any other capacity, I need to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, people have sort of said to me, well, can I have sessions early in the morning? No, because from the moment I get up, I have a routine of working. I walk the dog. I go out in nature. The moment I get up, I have to be out in the green. And I live up near the mountains in North Wales, which I'm so lucky to have. And then I like to meditate for half an hour. And then I might do a bit of dancing. I like to do, you know, a bit of dancing 2 or 3 times a week. And
Well,
that just raises my energy.
I put a salsa one in here, and it's fantastic. My friend and I got back to salsa 2 weeks ago, and it was fantastic.
Oh, I love a bit of salsa.
Well,
Yeah, just anything that moves your body, because it raises your energy.
Totally. So we went in the mental health retreat, right, and we all did. It was the fight songs. So the facilitators, they all had their songs. Mine was "The Climb" by Miley Cyrus. You ever heard it? Oh, you need to look it up, because it's all "The Climb." And there was just so many. And, you know, I'll actually send you the playlist, because it is just fantastic. See, for walking, but it's funny how you relate to a specific song. I go on music, and if somebody said to me, so what music do you like? And I'll say, oh, geez, you wouldn't even believe it. It goes from there to there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it depends on the mood.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I do music therapy with clients, it's about invoking that memory so that we can then work on it. And it's about what's hidden behind that song. You know, what's the emotion? What's the thought? What's the action? And when you work with it intuitively and they start answering from their heart space instead of their head, they surprise themselves, because they think, oh no, this isn't going to work. This is just a nice bit of music. And then once we get into the session, they go, oh, I'd forgotten that. Oh, that's where that comes from. Right. So let's deal with that.
Yeah.
You know, and we can really get deep into it, because music is, I mean, it's such a powerful thing.
More music. I mean, music's just on all the time. I love music. I absolutely love
yeah.
music. So, you know, this has been fascinating. It really has, Paula, and I want to catch up with you as well. But what I want you to do is give me the links where people can contact you, how they can work with you. You know, if you're on a podcast, we want to support you. We want to hear more about what you do. Because I think together we can all achieve more as well. And I think that every connection has a connection that will help you. And I've just thought in one in this group just now. I interviewed a lady who became a celebrant. And the reason she became a celebrant was her son died. And she had gone to the funeral, and it was terrible the way the person actually dealt with it. So she decided to become a celebrant, to do the service the way she wanted it done.
Lovely.
And for me, that's actually, so I think I've interviewed 12 to 14 people in here now. Everybody has got to maybe an age where they just think there's got to be more to life. I'm not working till the day I die.
Yeah.
We were in Manchester, and I saw a lady, she must have been 64, and she could hardly even walk, but she didn't have a choice. You know, no state pension, working in Harvester, like totally doubled over and trying to work. Everybody's getting to a crossroads and thinking, okay, what do I want to do? Do something you love. If you think, you know, you could work with Paula and help with, you know, people's grief, how passionate, how you know, good would you feel? So that would be fantastic. So send me your contact details, and I'll put it in the links, and I will send you the YouTube so that you can share as well, Paula, because it was really, really lovely to catch. And we've got so many similarities. We meet people for a reason.
We absolutely met for a reason. You know, that was so, I mean, I haven't met many people whose children have dyspraxia.
No.
And as soon as we started talking, you went, oh, and then we were something else. Oh, that's the same. Oh,
I'm going to Stirling to leave on Tuesday, and I'm going to Stirling on Wednesday. Your daughter's the same age as my son, both with dyspraxia. We were both celebrating. My 30th wedding anniversary was last year. You were celebrating yours in Stirling.
Yeah.
Hello. What happened there? Thank you, universe, for bringing Paula into my life.
Oh, I feel blessed to know you, Audrey. I really do.
Oh, no, thank you so much. And it'll be in the group. I'll put it in the group, but it's also on Facebook. It's on LinkedIn. It's on YouTube. And I hope people find you, because there are so many people need to find someone who can do what you did for that man.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So I'm going to cut this off. 1 second. Thank you.